And we are live. And welcome to everybody to the second episode of the PokeRAMBLE podcast. I'm your host, Kamal, and I'm joined by the frontier brain himself, Amit.
Hi, it's good to be back.
It is good to be back. This will be a shorter episode, but not a worse episode than last week's. For this week, we are talking about the Pokemon movie, the VGC 2020 format, the top 5 Pokemon in the meta in relation to VGC 2020, tips for the upcoming Galar Newcomers competition, and most importantly, having fun in the meta game. As usual, you can find the show live on Twitch every Sunday, or you can find it on YouTube a few hours after it is streamed. We're working on Spotify. Hopefully this should be up by next week, so look out for that. As usual, if you've got any feedback or questions, send that to PokeRamblePod@gmail.com. How's your week been, Amit?
Oh, it's been good.
Yeah?
Yeah, getting ready for Galar Newcomers, which I'm sure we'll talk about later on.
It's painful.
You're not enjoying that. You're not enjoying it.
Why did I wait till the last week to decide? Okay, yeah, I'll join. I mean, it was basically you convincing me to sort of join it, and after you gave me a few ideas for teams, which will be utilizing some of my favorite Pokemon from this region, I thought I just have to. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to finding out more about VGC and what it's all about a bit later on in the show.
I just figured that you've got about 500 eggs without a shiny score button, probably more than 500 eggs without a shiny score button.
I've only been streaming it, and it's over 300. So I haven't been doing any. I've been doing Slowpokes actually, and that's not been going too well. But we'll talk about that later. I'm too depressed to talk about it right now. But yeah, no, I think without further ado, we'll start with the first topic then, which is the Pokemon movie 23, which the name of it is Coco. So a teaser for the Pokemon movie 23 had dropped, and it showcases a guy swinging from tree to tree. We see Ash, who looks he's in some new getup, but it looks pretty cool. But it looks very reminiscent of the Power of Us and the I Choose You sort of Ash. So it's continuing in the new continuity of the movies. So we see Pikachu and Ash looking up at this dude swinging from tree to tree, and we get a cut to a shrine and then a baby. So a lot in there for us to question, really. We don't know what studio is kind of doing it. The last movie was done by OLM and Wit Studio, but I think it's probably gonna be Wit Studio again for this movie, but they haven't confirmed anything. But you know, you saw the teaser. How do you what are your impressions of it, really?
To be honest, it was a short teaser. They didn't give a lot away. They kept it quite mysterious. It's cool seeing Ash's new outfit. It always is.
Yeah, I like the little Pokeball on his shirt.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, and I know they didn't give away a lot of details, but it's always fun to watch.
And the character swinging from tree to tree, he looks pretty cool. I wonder what his whole story is about. Can he talk to Pokemon? You know, maybe he's been raised by them. Who knows? Is it?
That's an incredible leap from maybe a 3 second.
I'm just pushing stuff out to the ether. Just trying to get something from the image there, and from the teaser. But I think the one significant thing we saw in that trailer was a shot of the shrine, and upon looking at the shrine and doing a bit of research, it seems like it's the Elix Forest Shrine. Shrine, which is Celebi's shrine. So I was just sort of wondering, what do you think about that, Celebi being back in this movie?
I mean, my expectation, just going off the kind of the previous films that were Kanto and, in theory, Johto focused respectively, I guess I was expecting to see a Hoenn based movie. I think that, you know, to me logically makes sense. But obviously Ash's outfit doesn't necessarily hint towards that. I was trying to place the cap, but I think it is very reminiscent of the previous movie and nothing else. So it's up in the air, and there's no reason why it couldn't be Celebi. We stick around in Johto for another film. I think the thing that would surprise me about that is we have had a Celebi film before.
Yeah.
Which was Pokemon Forever. So it'd be interesting to see if we do get was it Pokemon Forever?
Yeah, exactly that. And that was the fourth
second guessing myself as to whether it's Pokemon 2000, but no, it was Pokemon Forever.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of where it's set. I mean, I'd be curious to see if they do a different angle on the Celebi, film that we had before.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly the forest theme and the shrine really do lend themselves to Celebi.
I mean, yeah. So you say you're shocked by it not being in Hoenn. I'm pretty shocked as well. But when I've pulled up the list of movies here, we can see that there's actually three movies in Hoenn. Not Hoenn. Johto, excuse me. So you've got obviously the Lugia movie, you've got the Entei movie, and now you've got the Celebi one. The reason why I think it might also be Celebi is because we've seen that teaser trailer that you've obviously got the guy swinging from tree to tree, and then you get a cut to a baby. I'm just wondering, is that baby and that guy the same person? That's what I'm thinking.
It's good speculation.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the eye color's the same, the hair color's the same. You see with that cut to the shrine, you see some like little glowing green things. I don't know if that's Celebi using his or her power, its power. Yeah, it's all speculation at this point. But I just wonder if we're gonna get another time travel movie with Celebi. Pretty cool. But I'm looking forward to the next trailer. Whenever we
there wasn't a lot of time travel in the original Celebi movie.
No, it was more about what was his name, Younger Oak, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
That was major. If you haven't seen it by now, I mean, come on, guys. It's been 20 years, please. 19 years, fair. But no, the other interesting thing is the movie name is Coco. Now, I'm just wondering, is it Coco, as in the new character's name is Coco? Or is it Coco as in, the Japanese word Coco for here? I don't know. I don't know what the significance of that is.
How are they spelling Coco?
Well, the kanji is the same for Coco, C-O-C-O, and K-O, K-O. So either or.
So really. A film that actually has the name of a Pokemon in it, and we're not speculating it could be Tapu Koko.
In Japanese, the tapus are called kapus. So like Tapu Koko's Kapu Kokeko, I think it is. So yeah, I doubt it's going to be anything about the tapus. But I actually think we might get Celebi, and then also one of the new sort of legendaries, maybe Calyrex or something like that. Who knows? They haven't shied away from that with, I Choose You having Marshadow, the last film having Sarah Aura, so it could be interesting. It could be interesting in that sense if they added.
And just thinking about the release, the timing of the release for the new DLC, it would fit in quite nicely if it was something like Kupfu.
You know what? It's actually releasing around the same time as the DLC, so there is some stock in that. Actually, there is some stock in that. So yeah, we'll have another conversation when we've got more details. But yeah, we'll move on to the next topic then. In that case, if you've got nothing further to add.
Not at this stage. The trailer was incredibly short, and I'm sure that we'll get some more details soon, and we can speculate and talk about that more in time. But for now, I think with the 30-second trailer, there's only so much we can speculate.
Yeah, that's fair. So we'll talk about the 2020 Pokemon VGC. Now, this is something near and dear to your heart, the VGC format. So why don't you just explain to the people what VGC actually is? What does it mean? What does it stand for?
So VGC, the Video Game Championships, the format that Pokemon terms its competitive play.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun. It's been around since probably the get-goes of Pokemon, so Red and Blue, but very different now to what it was back then. Not least the fact that it is doubles format, so you play two Pokemon against two Pokemon on the field at the same time, and then you have two more in reserve. So you have a team of 4 against a team of 4, but you're fighting 2-on-2.
Cool. And so what makes this your favorite format over singles? More favored format, sorry.
I think the easy answer is that you just get more variety in doubles, and I mean I was doing some thinking about what the real differences are between the singles and doubles format in Pokemon, and for me the variety you get in doubles is by far and away the kind of biggest factor. There are Pokemon that are completely unviable on their own, but in a doubles format where you have support and things like that, Pokemon that ordinarily just wouldn't have an opportunity really can shine, and we saw that with Pokemon like Togedemaru coming up in previous World Championships.
Don't forget Pachirisu as well.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and it's just one of those things where the element of surprise can be really big in a doubles game.
Mm-hmm.
But this time in a doubles format rather than singles, no one Pokemon has to kind of carry the team on its own.
Mm-hmm.
So Pokemon that are a little bit more fringe and not necessarily as strong on their own can really shine when they're supported by the right team.
I'd like to interject there. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, we saw yesterday in the Dallas Championships, dude was running on Mudsdale in VGC, and he was sort of saying that his Mudsdale is his main breaker in VGC, and I'm just thinking in singles, you really wouldn't see many people running a Mudsdale, and it being very useful in a singles format. So I thought that was pretty cool. I will also add that, people on Showdown do manage to make gimmicky teams for lesser used Pokemon, but it's a lot more difficult, you'd probably find, than having another Pokemon to support it. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's talk about that as we come to kind of the fourth bit of this discussion, particularly when I want to start talking about some of the fun teams that I've seen in my time playing VGC this year. So we'll come to that for sure.
Cool. So what else makes it different from singles and doubles?
So I think the biggest thing that after kind of the fact that it is giving rise to so many more Pokemon is it's at the heart of its nature. It is a team game, and the team element can't be understated. I mean, whether it's giving your team speed advantage, whether it's giving it perks and boosts, whether it's the interactive play between your own Pokemon, or the fact that you've got two Pokemon staring you down rather than one. I mean, the synergies you have to have is very, very different from singles to doubles, and you've got to think a lot more flexibly about not just what one Pokemon can do to you or what two Pokemon can do to you, but what they can do together, and that adds a whole new element both to your side of the field and the opponents.
I think that's what I've been struggling with. We said earlier in the podcast that I left it last week to actually start doing some VGC stuff and building this team. I've had a lot of headaches where I'm just thinking, okay, this is good, but then I've only been focusing on one Pokemon at a time. I haven't been thinking, what if these two Pokemon are at the same time? What will they do against my team? How can I defend myself against them? So yeah, that's it's been quite a headache for me, but I guess it comes with time, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So we've talked about Pokemon in the VGC format being good in terms of supporting teammates. But I wanted to sort of talk about the top 5 Pokemon in the meta game for you anyway, and I want to talk about them being the best Pokemon in that format, and then also the best Pokemon to support other Pokemon in that format as well. So we'll start. Yeah,
I mean, one of the big differences in VGC 2020 is obviously Dynamax or Gigantamax, depending on the Pokemon you're using. And Dynamax plays a really interesting role in doubles because it's not just there to take Pokemon out. It's not just there to do damage or to soak up attacks. It's there to play a synergist role. Moves like Max Quake and Max Steel Spike can boost your defensive power. Max Ooze and Max Knuckle boost your attacking power, but not just for the Pokemon using it, for you and your ally.
And so that's really interesting. I didn't think that it would apply to your allies, but it does. Like Max Knuckle,
in the same way it does in a Max Ray battle, your entire team benefits from a Max move. So there's lots of Pokemon that are very prevalent, and certainly Braviary was one of those in the early days of this format that was using Max Airstream to boost the speed of your team, Max Knuckle to boost the attacking force of your team. It had some really good variety play.
Incredible. See, that's another thing, Max Airstream. I had no idea that actually applied to the whole team. So were people using Gyarados and it benefiting from Max Airstream speed from Braviary as well?
Yeah, so one of the things that was really popular in a singles tournament at the end of December or mid-December, which was a singles format, was Dynamax and Gyarados, because it had access to Max Airstream that could boost its own speed. It had access to Moxie that would boost its own attack, and you suddenly had this Pokemon that could snowball after one or two moves to have +2 attack and +2 speed, and in theory sweep the rest of your opponent's team no problem. In doubles, it's not that easy, because if you start doing that with one Pokemon, chances are your opponent are going to double up their attacks into it to try and stop it from snowballing any further. So you don't really get away with it. And it's one of the reasons why Stall is far less popular in the doubles format, because where you might previously have had a Pokemon that could recover out of an attack, it's much harder to do that when there's two Pokemon attacking you at once. So stall is far less common, and that plays into the fact that you get a bit more kind of interactive play and fast-paced play, because you just can't have a Pokemon single-handedly trying to stall a team out.
Yeah, I guess, and the other thing is with Dynamax as well, it's made that even less prevalent, I guess, because if you've got a Pokemon that's constantly boosting in front of you and you're not doing too much against it, then you're pretty much screwed, aren't you?
Yeah, and momentum is a big thing in doubles. You really don't want to waste a turn where you're not doing anything, because your opponent gets 2 chances to hit you back if you waste a turn. So momentum is a really big deal.
So, talking about big deals, we've got a few Pokemon that currently run the metagame, don't we? I think you had 5 you wanted to talk about. Should we start with the first one?
Yeah, I thought it'd be nice to introduce people to some of the more popular Pokemon in the format, just because if you are ever thinking about getting into it, knowing what you're up against is always a helpful thing.
Sure.
So Dragapult is the first one that I wanted to pull up. But currently, you're seeing the most play of any Pokemon in VGC, and there's a really simple reason for that, and that's that it is incredibly versatile. You can see its base speed stat there of 142. Nothing other than Ninjask will outspeed it on pure pace. Incredibly quick, and also good power to boot. So an attack stat of 120, and that special attack stat of 100 is nothing to be laughed at. Dragapult can hit you fast and hit you really hard. It has access to a unique move in Dragon Darts that can hit both opponents at once. But also has the ability to sneak out of the battle with Phantom Force and avoid a potential Dynamax attack and waste one of your opponent's turns.
That is really cool. I didn't realise it got Phantom Force.
Yeah, it's one of the most popular moves on the physical set because it's the strongest physical ghost type move that Dragapult can learn. So particularly useful if you're going to Dynamax Dragapult and use Max Phantasm. You want the kind of strongest base move that you can to give it the real power. But the reason why people love Dragapult is it's just so versatile. So, you can run a physical set and take advantage of that. Really high attack power. You can run a special set with Draco Meteor and Shadow Ball and Fire Blast, Thunderbolt, or and things like that. Or you can run a support set. And I've seen people use Dragapult really well, quite bulky with, things like Will-O-Wisp, with Ally Switch, with Disable. It really is very versatile and plays itself into teams in a number of different ways, and that unpredictability is what makes it so useful. It's really hard for your opponent to think about how you're going to use it and what to counter it with if they're not sure what it is.
I've also seen a substitute set with Dragapult as well. It's quite unique Pokemon that's got access to a lot of moves.
Substitute again being one of those moves really useful against Dynamax Pokemon because you're wasting one of their turns for only a 25% HP drop, which is not bad at all.
And then you can disable them from actually doing damage to you. So if they've got a super effective move, disable, and they're pretty much screwed after, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Clear Body being a fantastic ability, it stops Dragapult from losing any of its stats and taking stat drops. Infiltrator, less common, it's still very useful, which hits Pokemon through Substitute. Would be really helpful if it can hit through Disguise as well to stop Mimikyu running amok, but unfortunately doesn't get that perk. Maybe they'll change that in the future. I hope they do, because it would be a great kind of way to shut Mimikyu down. But Curse Body, sharing that ability with Gengar, disables, or it has a 30% chance to disable opponent's move. So, Dragapult is very flexible. Clear Body is the ability of choice, but those stats really do lend it to playing a variety of different roles, and it's why it's so popular in the format at the moment.
Cool. I don't know if you want to talk about its teammates at all. What's good to run with it?
To be honest, Dragapult's versatility means it will run with anything it wants to. It can run with bulkier Pokemon that are there to take a hit when it can't. Ally Switch being a very useful move there. It can run very happily on a team that will give it a speed advantage, something that runs Tailwind. But really Dragapult is flexible, and that's why people like it. So expect to see it on a variety of different teams doing a variety of different roles. It's a very difficult one to predict turn one.
Yeah, it's not a Pokemon that we had in previous generations, obviously, so we won't really talk about...
No, and that, it's another advantage. It's another reason why people haven't quite figured out the best way to utilize it yet, and actually Surprise is one of its best utilities.
You just don't know what... Because of its attack stat and special attack set, I'd like to say, it's hard to predict what Dragapult you're going to be facing at the beginning of the battle, just because it's got such a big move pool. And you can run either or, and you don't really have a right or wrong option, really.
And it it has access to such a wide variety of moves. It can learn Fly for Max Extreme. It can learn Hydro Pump for Fire types. It can learn, Thunderbolt and Flamethrower, Fire Blast. It's got access to such a wide pool of moves that it really can be devastating to teams that just aren't prepared to deal with it.
And that 142 speed, that was something when I first saw it. I was a bit shocked by it, but there we are.
Yeah, it's nothing to scoff at.
No, we'll move on to the next Pokemon then, which is
the next one's Arcanine.
Boom.
So Arcanine is very, very popular in this format because it's, to be honest, it's so, again, versatile. That attack stat of 110, special attack stat of 100, means it really can run physical or special varieties with confidence. It's got access to support moves in Will-O-Wisp and Snarl. Will-O-Wisp, being such a useful move in this format because there are so many physical attackers that are prevalent. Will-O-Wisp is a great way to shut them down because when you're burnt, your physical attacks do half damage. Snarl, again, very useful because it drops your opponent's special attack one stage for both opponents.
Mm-hmm.
So a really useful one as well. And then, it can run powerful moves in Flare Blitz, Close Combat. It's got access to special as well, so Heat Wave to hit both opponents, or Fire Blast as well.
It's one of the Pokemon that I was quite surprised to see on their list, of most used Pokemon. I remember.
And the big reason that you'll see it there is its second ability, Intimidate. So Intimidate drops the opponent's attack stat by 1, both opponents' Pokemon. In a metagame that's very, very physically oriented with lots of big, strong physical attackers,
Mm-hmm.
Intimidate can be devastating to stop your opponent from being able to land what would have otherwise been short one-hit KOs and actually forcing them to take 2 or sometimes even 3 times to hit a Pokemon hard enough to kill it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, only things that could stop Intimidate are things like, well, not really stop it, but be to its disadvantage would be Pokemon that run competitive, Defiant, and all that kind of stuff. But it's good to see it, being used out there.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why Braviary was so popular early on. Braviary having access to Defiant meant that it got in theory, 1-stage attack boost for free after Intimidate. And Milotic as well with competitive also has access to a 2-stage special attack boost after Intimidate. So both Pokemon do take advantage of that, and sometimes you do have to be wary when you see the team matchups and you know what you're up against to maybe avoid putting Arcanine in at the start just in case.
So what Pokemon really appreciate Arcanine and the role that it fills?
To be honest, something that really appreciates the support from either Will-O-Wisp or Snarl. So Arcanine is there to really play a lending hand to teams that need a bit more of a defensive support. So something that is a little bit more frail, where Intimidate, Will-O-Wisp, Snarl can really hamper a Pokemon from doing too much damage. It's a bulkier one. You sometimes do see it run with Assault Vest if you want to run things like Wild Charge and play rough. But typically you see it with a Recovery Berry like a Citrus Berry or a Gruow Berry because it gives it the longevity to stay in for a bit longer and keep kind of draining the opponent's resources.
And just comparing it to last generation then, what makes it different this generation? Is it better or worse? Really, this was obviously better, I guess, but what was it like last generation?
I mean, it was not nearly as prevalent in the last generation. The big reason for that being there were lots of other Intimidate users who were far more effective.
Mm-hmm.
Salamence being the one that springs to mind immediately.
Oh, God.
Gyarados being another. But the thing that Arcanine benefits from at the moment is a kind of lack of counters. There aren't too many Pokemon out there in this format who can really kind of slam into it hard. And it's benefiting from that. It means it can get a lot more play than it might ordinarily see.
Okay, cool. You were talking about Salamence there, and all I remember seeing on like VGC teams are like Mega Salamence out there, Mega Gyarados. It's just giving me flashbacks.
And one of the benefits of running something like Mega Salamence is you can get Intimidate off on turn 1 and then drop it by Mega Evolving and getting a brand new ability that benefits you further.
So was it Aerial, wasn't it?
It was Aerial, yeah, to give Double Edge or Return some real power.
Okay, so Arcanine's a pretty cool Pokemon. Should we talk about number 3 then?
Yeah, Excadrill. So Excadrill runs two formats predominantly. Both are pretty popular. The first is Sandrush. So Sandrush doubles Excadrill's speed in a Sandstorm, and you can see its base speed stat of 88 isn't too powerful, but it likes to use that massive attack stat of 135 to hit very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And Sandrush lets it move fast enough that it can hit hard and hopefully KO a Pokemon that it might not otherwise, particularly if it's running something like a Choice Band.
Mm-hmm.
Excadrill is hugely powerful, but one of the other benefits it brings is it has access to both Max Quake and Max Steel Spike, which respectively can boost your special defense or your defense one stage. So Dynamaxing Excadrill can give your team a really big defensive boost, as well as having a massive damage output.
Nice. And so you've got teammates then that really support it, like...
Yeah, I mean, Gastrodon's a pretty popular one to see. It stops Excadrill from getting hit too hard by water-based moves. Tyranitar obviously is handy to set up Sandstorm or Hippowdon, but more common to see Tyranitar so that Sandrush will activate and give Excadrill the speed boost it needs. That's the kind of team you'd expect to see around an Excadrill.
Cool. And in terms of it being good in last generation, was it any good last generation then?
I mean, Sand teams have never really gone away since they kind of came about in Generation 5. They were kind of a little bit less popular in the previous generation because I think terrain was far more versatile for certain Pokemon than perhaps Weather was. But Weather's made a big return in Generation 8, and the prevalence of Excadrill is definitely credit to that. Don't forget to check its ability, because you don't want to send out a Rotom thinking it has immunity only to get hit by Earthquake 3 Mold Breaker.
I know how that feels.
It definitely happened to opponents I faced before.
Yeah, no, I just remember when it happened to us. It wasn't Excadrill, but Mold Breaker. That good old Mold Breaker. Okay, so Excadrill, another staple then. What's number 4?
Number 4, and I think this is the one that people get annoyed by most on the ladder, is Whimsicott. So Whimsicott has an ability called Prankster that means that any move that doesn't do damage gets to move before any other move. So it makes Whimsicott the perfect Pokemon to set up supporting moves like Tailwind to double your entire team's speed, Fake Tears to cause a special defense drop, Encore to deal with Pokemon that are using setup moves, Taunt to stop Pokemon using other supporting moves, Helping Hand to give you a damage boost. It's very, very versatile, and Prankster makes it incredibly useful to deal jarring effects to your opponent's strategy.
A helping hand, giving you a helping hand. Sorry.
It does, yeah.
So, in terms of the teammates it will help out the most, is that just any Pokemon, really, or...
I mean, yeah, Whimsicott is there to support any team. I mean, it even has access to Trick Room. So if you're running a slower team, Whimsicott's got the ability to slow your entire game down and switch to Trick Room, which makes slower Pokemon move first. So it's incredibly versatile, and there's no team that couldn't benefit in some way from having Whimsicott on it. It really is versatile, and lots of people are using it in competitive play because it just has the element of surprise again. We saw someone at the Dallas Championships literally yesterday who had run Tailwind in his first 2 battles for a best-of-3 match, and then break out Fake Tears in the final battle to guarantee a one-hit KO on the Pokemon that had been sweeping his team before. So it's incredibly useful. It can just do things to surprise your opponent and give you advantages that you might not get otherwise with Pokemon that were either slower or didn't have the boost in Prankster.
I just never thought I would hear the words Fake Tears and Whimsicott and it helping a Pokemon get a one-hit KO ever, really. Oh,
yeah, God. I mean, don't be surprised. It's a move that I think Grimmstyle likes to use as well. Grimmstyle being the other big prankster user.
Yeah. Okay, that was educational for me. Actually, I didn't know.
Yeah, one to watch out for. And also, typically, he's running Focus Sash, so if you try and hit it once, it won't go down.
God damn it! So, last generation staple.
Not nearly as much, and I think a big part of that is there were again other form similar effects and be more effective generally. Whimsicott really doesn't have a great damage output, and there were Pokemon in the format who could both kind of set up a team but also do big damage. But in a format where there's less Pokemon around, Whimsicott's found its spot in being the sort of synergist for the team.
Cool. Okay, should we go on to the next Pokemon then?
Absolutely.
And it's our boy Egg-Scramble.
Egg-Scramble?
Sorry.
Togekiss.
Yeah,
Togekiss.
Egg-Scramble.
I've never heard PokeRAMBLE before. Togekiss is on this list because it just is so bulky and can provide such good support to the team. The fact that it can take 2 or 3 hits, pretty comfortably with big special defense and defense stats, mean that it performs a very good job for teams that need a bit of support. Access to Follow Me means that you can prevent your teammate from getting hit. Max Airstream from Air Slash gives your team a speed boost, but also the kind of effect of it having area of effect, so moves that hit both of your opponent's Pokemon, like Heat Wave, like Dazzling Gleam, means that even if it's small damage, you're hitting both Pokemon at once, and sometimes that can be very useful to pick up cheap knockouts on Pokemon that maybe have hung on with a Focus Sash or aren't hanging in there.
Cool. And Togekiss obviously has been a pretty popular Pokemon for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not been so popular for the last couple of years. I think mainly because there's been some really prevalent setup Pokemon again, particularly in the last generation with all the Tapus. But just its ability to support a team in a number of different ways is a reason why it's very, very popular, and expect to see plenty of use kind of as the season goes on.
So I haven't played any VGC. You already know this. Just telling the people out there. In terms of teammates, then, would it be run with anything, or is there specific teams that you expect to find it on?
To be honest, again, it's another one of those that can be run with quite a wide variety of Pokemon. It likes to support a Pokemon that needs a bit of a speed boost, or that needs some protection from Follow Me. It's rare that Togekiss will be the one that sweeps your opponent's team. Even with that mighty special attack stat of 120, there will be Pokemon in your team who can out damage. But I've seen lots of people run its third ability, Super Luck, with a scope lens to give Togekiss a 50% chance of critical hitting.
that is sneaky.
And when you're hitting both Pokemon at once with something like a Dazzling Gleam, a 50% chance critical hit rate means you could be doing massive damage. And the benefit of critical hits is they don't take into account things like light screen and reflect, or your opponent's defensive boost. So even if your opponent has set up this brick wall, Togekiss is the thing that can really smash through that.
So what I wanted to ask then, in terms of Togekiss, would you find people running more defensive sets or more offensive sets, or is it a balance of the two?
Definitely a balance of the two. There are teams where it needs to focus as the support Pokemon, where you want it for its bulk. There are teams that absolutely try to get Togekiss setting up to sweep your opponent's team. One of the things it really has to watch out for is the prevalence of Excadrill and Ironhead, because as a fairy type, it really doesn't like that. But it has answers to Excadrill. It has access to Heat Wave, and after a speed boost from Max Airstream, is always capable of taking it down.
Cool. Oh, thanks for that. That's I think that's the 5 we wanted to cover. So these are the 5 that you'd tell people to look up about, maybe center their teams around, perhaps. Would you? Or
I mean, certainly there's an argument that says you can pop these onto any team that you want to. I always say to people, if you want to build a team around a particular Pokemon, make it a Pokemon you like. It's really easy to go and look up a competitive team. And actually, if you're new to VGC, that's not a bad way to start. Which is using a team that someone with a lot of experience has built. Just because it gives you more of a fighting chance of making sure you've got the right moves, the right combinations, and not having to think about those things. Sometimes you can lose the battle before you've even started the game, just purely by how you build your team. And so sometimes picking up a team that someone else has used, and Sword and Shield has got a feature where you can rent teams that other people have put together. It's a really handy way to get started. So if there is a particular Pokemon you want to use and build a team around, any of these Pokemon could be a good fit for that team, but certainly kind of picking a team that someone else has put together to start with is a great way for newcomers to kind of get some practice on the doubles scene, particularly if you've not played doubles before, and if you've not played competitive before.
Cool. We'll get into that a bit later when we talk about the fun of VGC, but before we get there, I'd like to tell everybody that the Galar Newcomers competition is upcoming. It's next weekend, and you need to register before that, so make sure you do. But let's talk about the Galar Newcomers competition. What is this competition? What are the rules? Let's go.
Galar Newcomers has got to be probably the most excited I've been for one of these small tournaments in a while, because it's restricting the format to literally only the Pokemon that are brand new to Generation 8. So the pool of Pokemon is much smaller. I think I saw quotes that there were sort of 20 or 30 viable Pokemon only. And it's exciting because you're forced to be really creative with Pokemon that you might not ordinarily have considered. because the likes of Arcanine, Excadrill, Whimsicott, Togekiss aren't available to you.
I think you found that I kept when I was texting you about building a team. I kept
every time you were trying to put a team together for I'll bring this one and this one. The Generation 2 Pokemon. You can't do that.
Yeah,
it forces people to think outside the box. And I really like that. I like that it's an incredibly restrictive format.
Well, thinking outside the box, I mean, I was talking to you about building this new VGC team, and obviously we've managed to fit in three of the 4 favorite Galar Pokemon that I have. But one of the Pokemon I actually wanted to add to my team before I forgot you can't actually have it was Hawlucha. Because I was going to be running an Indeedee in the team to support the other Pokemon, and with its Psychic Surge ability, Hawlucha would be fantastic as a sweeper. But you were like, no, you can't use that. Let's think of some Pokemon that in Galar that can benefit from Indeedee, and one of them was actually Thievul. So I'll be running a Thievul in VGC, surprisingly enough. But that's one of the instances where you're like thinking outside the box.
Yeah, it's great that someone like Thievul, who would very, very rarely get a chance in VGC, will get a chance here. There's teams that it could function very well on in Galar Newcomers, where there aren't so many counters to it, and certainly Pokemon that it can really hit hard.
I mean, I'm expecting a lot of Dragapults out there, so I'm hoping Thievul can put in a ton of work. So, hopefully it doesn't work. But in terms of giving people tips, so if people are entering the competition maybe for the first time, what can they expect? What do you think they should be running on their teams? And just some tips for the people.
I think that my biggest tip is learn the field. If you're new to playing competitive, this is absolutely the tournament you want to try playing in, because the pool of Pokemon that you can use are so small. So you have an opportunity to genuinely know the majority of Pokemon that people will be using. So you'll know which Pokemon have got Follow Me or Fake Out, which Pokemon are going to have abilities that will neutralize your attack. So when you're seeing your opponent's teams, you should have a better idea of what to expect. And that will allow you to be more strategic in what you're doing and think about tactics that are going to overcome your opponent's strategies. Learning the field is a really big one.
Could I just add that, so for the competition, you get to bring 6 Pokemon. How many of them do you actually get to use in the competition itself?
Yeah, so you get to bring 6 Pokemon for the tournament, and those 6 Pokemon are with you for all of the 3 days of the tournament. You can't change your team after you start, and every battle you get to pick any 4 of those 6 Pokemon, 2 of which will start for you, 2 of which are your reserves. And you basically fight a 4-on-4 battle.
So it's really important to look at your opponent's team and try to sort of think about what they'll bring and what would make sense in terms of synergy for their team.
Yeah, and trying to read the game is hugely important in doubles. You want to try the first time you can do that is by picking a team.
Just cutting out a bit there, buddy.
Sorry, I was going to say, in doubles, reading ahead of your is hugely important, and the first opportunity you get to do that is when you pick your team. So yeah, getting the right Pokemon is absolutely the place to start.
Tip number 1, pay attention to their team. So in terms, I'm Joe Blogs. I'm starting my first ever VGC tournament, or participating in my first ever VGC tournament. I need to put together a team very quickly. What are some basic teams that people should be running, or some basic Pokemon people should be putting together?
I think there are some clear favourites in contention. Dragapult we've already mentioned, obviously being a new Pokemon in Generation 8, it will be very popular. Don't be surprised to see a lot of Grimmsnarl, a lot of Indeedee. Grimmsnarl with the Prankster ability can really kind of stall your opponent. And
what does Prankster do?
Prankster, as we talked to Whimsicott, gives priority to non-damaging moves.
Right.
So things like Thunder Wave, things like Light Screen and Reflect can really kind of hamper your tactics. Grimmsnarl's definitely one to watch out for.
So let's go before your opponents then, really.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And Dracovish is another good one. Dracovish is a Pokemon that has a move that has 500. It can hit for 573 base power through a combination of a move called Fishious Rend, which doubles in power if you move before the opponent, and with access to Strong Jaw and Choice Band, and obviously Stab from it being a water type move or same type attack bonus. It can basically ramp up a move that is in theory 573 base power strong, which is absolutely nuclear.
Do you think
and without Gastrodon to absorb its attack, it's really got no obvious counters other than moving faster.
Do you think we're going to find a lot of Choice Scarf Dracovishes, or?
I wouldn't be surprised to see it come out. I'm sure there are lots of people who are tempted by the power it's moved, but just because lots of people are running it will probably mean lots of people are running counters to it as well.
I need to actually review my team because, I don't know off the top of my head what will be able to outspeed a scarfed Dracofish, but yeah, that's a problem for me to deal with. Any other
calculation you need to figure out?
Yeah. Any other tips for the people out there?
To be honest, if it's your first tournament, the key is to have fun. Sure. And if that means picking a Pokemon or a team even that are Pokemon that you have fun with, like watching Cramorant try to swallow a whole Pikachu, like watching Colossal get hit by a water attack and get all steamy, anything that you enjoy,
right. Easy.
Play with. That's a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of that in VGC as well for people who are trying to climb the competitive ladder.
Yeah.
When you're playing battle after battle after battle, doing it with the team that you enjoy playing with can make all the difference to really kind of going for it.
I guess, and when you finally get the win with that team that you've built with your favorite Pokemon, and I guess that's very satisfying as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm hoping to go for. Hoping not to go 0-45. Oh dear. I don't mind talking about my team a bit. So obviously, I'm more of a singles fan. I haven't actually played any competitive VGC or singles this generation, but I thought for this, if I am doing a VGC competition, I didn't want to use something that's tried and tested, or use all these Pokemon that you typically see. I wanted to use something a bit different and try and incorporate my favorites into it. So I've got a few Pokemon that I have been training up. So my 6 consists of Poltegeist, which is my second favorite Pokemon in this generation. Alcremie, which is my third favorite Pokemon in this generation. Phalanx was going to be in the team, who's my number 1 favorite. But I think I might have to shelve him just because my team might be too imbalanced if I keep him in there. I've already got 2 special sweepers, or 2 sweepers in the team, so I've shelved him. So it's actually going to be Duraludon, who I kind of like the design of anyway. He was one of the Pokemon that were revealed early on, and I was a big fan of his design and his sort of rivalry with Tyranitar, so he's in there. Thievul, obviously, for that fun aspect, is something that most people don't usually use, so I thought it would be pretty fun to use that. That's a Pokemon that you recommended, so that's going to be fun to use. Corviknight, which again, one of the Pokemon that were revealed quite early on, which I really like the look of. I'm going to be using mine in the competition, and obviously Indeedee the other Pokemon I'll be using. So like 3 or 4 of them I quite like in that team, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, good. And you're looking forward to the tournament?
Yeah, indeed. Well, it's the whole thing. It's like a brand new playing field for me, really. I know you've been trying to get me into the VGC game for quite some time now, so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, I'm not going to be discouraged if I lose a bunch of games. I mean, the most important thing is me trying to get some wins with the Chai. That's all I want. Wins with the Chai. I'll be happy. 1 or 2 would be good. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
So yeah, 4, most importantly, have fun in the meta. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, there are obviously, for people who really want to take it seriously, lots of tips. Learning about combos that other people will be using.
Yeah.
And trying to have an answer for those. Mm-hmm. Thinking about how you're going to manage the speed. Mm-hmm. So either being faster than your opponent or deliberately slower but tankier enough to take the hits. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if it's your first tournament, just have a good time.
I'll have to actually battle you, I think, maybe on Sunday after you've done your 15, and let's see how that goes. Because you've kept the team quite secret for good reasons. I'm guessing you want to surprise a lot of people on the ladder and make sure that people don't have time to come up with counters for your team. So I like to see your team firsthand in a battle. So I'll look forward to that. And we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely.
And maybe you could actually give me some tips on how my team is, and maybe improvements for next time. I might even try to use this on the normal casual battles that you can find on the game itself. So yeah,
sounds good.
That's it for that. Then we'll move on to the podcast form news. This is a segment where we get our correspondent podcast form to join us, but unfortunately he's on holiday. Would you believe? holiday. You just can't find stuff these days. So no, I'll be taking over from him. So I think the first thing to really say on the podcast form news is that in Pokemon Masters, Leaf is going to be joining the fray of characters you can get. Leaf is touted to be probably a really good support trainer or sync pair with Eevee in the metagame. She's going to have access to Iron Tail, which has got a chance of lowering your opponent's defense. Potion, obviously, to heal up other people. Let's Go, which increases the move gauges of all allied sync pairs by 2 and sharply raises the user's attack. So with the new changes to the online in Pokemon Masters, it's really important that you can fire off as many moves as possible in a short amount of time, and that's what Let's Go will help do. The other move that it's got is Tackle, because it's Eevee. Why wouldn't Eevee have Tackle? Its sync move is basically Eevee Boost from the mainline games, where the sync pair gets a boost across all of its stats: attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and accuracy. And that actually applies to your teammates as well. So that, combined with the change coming in February where sync moves no longer debuff you, it's going to be very strong in co-op. So yeah, look out for Leaf. That's coming on Wednesday. That's it, really. The other piece of news, yes, Pokemon Twilight. Pokemon Twilight is a sub-series from the Pokemon Company, telling stories from the Galar region. The first episode's up on YouTube. You can find it in Japanese or you can find it in English, whichever you prefer. But Amit, you saw the first episode. You enjoying it so far, buddy? Without going into detail?
It's nice. Yeah, it's great to give more flavour and depth to the Galar region above the games, and I'm a little behind on the anime because I watch it on Pokemon.tv, which is always a great place to watch it if you don't have access to a streaming service, because it's free. But it's nice to get my kind of introduction to.
What I wanted to ask actually is, so that's the end of the podcast form news for now. But what I wanted to ask, in terms of Pokemon, the anime, where are you at being on the English sort of streaming service?
So I'm just before the Pokemon League in Alola.
What? So you haven't even actually got to the League battles yet?
I think the very last episode of the League may have just come out on Pokemon TV, and I was waiting for all of the episodes to be out before I started watching it.
Oh, so right.
I have got 6 or 7 episodes to rush through.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at.
Excellent, because there's one episode, I think, of the Pokemon League where I said to my friend in the cinema, I really hate this. So I'll be interested to see what your thoughts are, and please do send me a message of what your thoughts are of the League, because yeah, never mind. But yeah, no, I'm not saying anything. But the Pokemon anime is currently actually the new series is actually streaming. I think we're on episode 8 now. I believe. 8 is
that in English or Japanese?
Japanese.
Or both?
Japanese. I don't know about the English one. I don't know whether or not it's actually started yet. But yeah, I think we're on episode 8 at the moment, and it's been a mixed bag for me. I find. No, episode 9. Yeah, it's been a mixed bag where it's sort of with previous series of the anime, you've got a storyline. Ash is going through this. He's got a goal basically. He's working towards a goal. So you see Kanto, Johto, Hoenn. He's going to get gym badges, get to the Pokemon League, get his ass kicked basically. This series is very different in that it tells one-off stories. They are connected to the old series and they are connected to each other, but it's more like, this is the episode, this is the story we're telling, boom, done. There's no sort of him going to do these Galar competitions and stuff like that. So I wonder if the Pokemon Twilight Wings anime is supposed to make up for that, but I don't think so, because it's only got 6 episodes?
Yeah, I think it's 6. Do you think that there'll be this big reveal where they kind of pull all the episodes together and suddenly episode 1 actually is this really important thing in an arc that's lasted 10 or 12 episodes?
I don't think so. I remember reading an article where they were saying that they wanted to focus on less 2-parters or 3-parters like they did in X and Y and stuff like that, because people don't have the time to watch TV anymore, which I found ridiculous. So they wanted to bring out these one story episodes where if people have come home from work, haven't watched Pokemon in a couple of weeks, they can just turn on TV and get what's going on, basically.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, there have been some excellent episodes. I think episode 3 for me is the one where I was like, I'm enjoying this now. But for the first couple of episodes, I wasn't too convinced. And it makes me wonder whether or not this anime is going to be, you know, its own little thing, and then we will get Ash going to the Galar region and doing his gym challenge there. I mean, for a region that's very much focused on battling and stuff like that, it would be a shame not to have that. So we'll see. I
mean, one of the things that's definitely true is that Ash typically does the gym challenge and the Pokemon League in 2 out of the 3 seasons of a generation.
Yeah.
So where you had I don't know, X and Y, Ash was kind of X and Y is probably the anomaly. In Black and White, the Pokemon League was done by the second of the seasons. There was a whole season after that that didn't have gym badges or Pokemon League in it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're just flipping it around and having this kind of opening arc that is more generalist and more kind of lore build, and then they'll delve into the Pokemon League after that.
They have introduced some really cool things, and you get to see more of the regions as well, which is nice. I know me and you were talking about how they're going to handle, you know, all these different regions. You know, are they going to do it? Ash starts from Kanto and then works his way up, or is he just going to be flipping around to different places? But I think yeah, some of the episodes have been really good, and I'm looking forward to today's episode. Yeah, I mean, do you want me to talk about something that happens in the trailer for the 2019 Pokemon anime, or have you not seen that trailer or?
I haven't seen the trailer. I'm keeping myself spoiler free.
Yeah, never mind.
I obviously fear that it will spoil the ending of Alola for me as well, so I'm trying to stay very spoiler free at the
moment. Yeah, it doesn't, but I think stay away from that trailer. Then it shows you the first couple of episodes in that trailer, but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to you watching that. But God, it's so far away. It feels like. If you've just finished the tournament, I mean, after the tournament, I think there's a couple more episodes, and then you're practically done. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Mr. Mime back in Pallet Town.
Oh man, but yeah, that's. I think that's it for today. Any other business? Yeah. So next week, I've put down here in my notes we're talking about the Pokemon movie, but obviously that was from last week. No, next week
was that a copy and paste job gone wrong?
Basically, very much so. You can tell I prepared for today's episode with great length. No,
let's play podcast form for being on holiday.
Huh? Yeah. that's basically why he's on holiday, because I made him take holiday. No, next week we're not going to be doing a podcast, obviously, because the Galar region Galar Newcomers competition is going to be upon us, and we'll probably be focusing on doing those 15 battles a day. And so the next podcast will be in a couple of weeks, where we'll be talking about the main topic will be Galar Newcomers, how we fared, what we thought about the competition, and things that we will do for next time if they ever do bring back this Galar Pokemon only sort of format. But yeah, that's practically it from me. If you've got anything to add, anything you wanna put out there to the people?
Don't forget to follow us on Twitch.
Yep.
Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube channel. We're going to be on Spotify. Kamel has promised that we'll be on Spotify, so check us out on Spotify soon.
No pressure, but yeah, before next week.
I said it in the podcast now. It's canon.
Yeah, it's canon. Yeah, the GS ball was canon, and we saw what happened to that. Absolutely nothing. But yeah, no. Well, it's been a good one, and I'll catch you people in a couple of weeks. Goodbye.
Bye.